Welcome to Country Fried Rock, where we have conversations with songwriters for real music lovers who enjoy context and musical connection. We are Country Fried Rock. My guest today on Country Fried Rock is Jacob Furr with his brand new record, Trails and Traces. Jacob and I have been in contact for quite a while, and he's a really talented songwriter with a powerful personal story to tell. Grab some Kleenex before Jacob Furr and I talk today on Country Fried Rock. My guest today on Country Fried Rock is Jacob Furr with a new record called Trails and Traces. Welcome.
Hey, thank you.
I honestly can't remember how we first got in touch, but maybe it was Couch by Couch West?
I think I actually found you just searching for blogs to release music to. My friends that are in St. Paul and the Broken Bones had talked about you. I know Paul, and I know his fiancée better, Caroline.
Right.
So I know them, and they had talked about you, and then after you interviewed John Moreland, I was looking for stuff on him, and your blog came up again, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is too weird that this same person has come up 3 times.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah, so that was when I got into it. I was like, all right, I'm in.
I have known of your music for quite a while. I'm pretty sure through Larry Hooper.
You know Larry?
Well, not personally, but I know Larry from Couch by Couch West years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I love Larry Hooper. That's so random. The way everybody's connected, it kind of blows my mind. Larry's super cool.
We were just talking off the air about, like the joys of technology, but really, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. Yeah, I played a thing in Granbury with Larry recently. There was a wine walk, and he hooked me up with just an outdoor gig, just kind of standing on the street corner. Well, that guy's awesome.
In fact, I don't actually know Larry, but I like his graphics so much, I bought some of his T-shirts.
Yeah, right, with the beard and the...
Well, it's great, and because it looks just like him.
Yeah, it does. It's identical to him. Suits his personality, too. He's a really just friendly, nice, kind of goofy guy.
That's very cool. Yeah. So, yes, small world.
We like the Larry Hooper.
Obviously, with Trails and Traces, you have been writing music for quite a while. How did you get into that originally?
Oh, man, originally, I had been doing it for a while in college. Like, by the time I had gotten to my sophomore year of college, I had written, 3 or 4 songs that I thought were any good. I'd written some other stuff that was just absolute trash. But by my, sophomore year in college, I was like, I think these are pretty decent songs. Then once I graduated from Texas Tech, I went back home and recorded a record in my bedroom, on the old Garage Band, and put that out just kind of to friends and family or whatever. And I think that was 8 tracks, maybe 10 tracks of songs that I had just written over a period of time. But I'd never really considered it what I wanted to do, or what I was supposed to do. I thought I was going to be a history teacher or something, So I was never really sold on it 100% until Christina and I got married, and we lived in San Francisco for a while.
Oh, fun.
And while we were out there, I was just kind of noodling around. I took a guitar just in case, I picked up a gig or something, and was still looking for jobs in, museums or the history field or something like that, But I wrote one song, and she was like, you should, that's a really good song. What if you wrote more? What if you did that? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And so I kind of experimented with it and wrote an EP called Finches, 3 songs about the Finch family from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
And I wrote that and recorded that out in San Francisco and was like, yeah, I really enjoy this. I like this a lot. And so, so from there it just kind of kept going, and it was all because Christina was like, I really think you're onto something. You should definitely be pursuing that. And, she was very supportive of that and was like, I want you to do it. Whatever it takes for you to do it, we'll make that happen so you can do this.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it was really cool.
How did y'all meet?
We actually grew up together. I was born in March of 86, and she was born in May of 86, and our families went to the same church, so we just grew up together. And so we dated for a little while in college, and then broke up, and then she went to California to go to school, and one day I was in Chicago, and my sister called me and was like, hey, you want to go visit Christina out in San Francisco? And I was like, not really. I mean, we kind of broke up. I don't really want to do that. And she was like, oh, cool. Well, I got your ticket, so we're going. I was like, oh, awesome. All right, cool. Let's do this. So, I went out there, and we fell back in love and ended up getting married out there in San Francisco and lived out there.
So how'd you end up back in Texas then?
We lived out there for about a year and a half, and then just decided, she had been gone for a while from Texas. She hadn't been in Texas for 7 years. So we decided we wanted to be kind of close to family for a little while. And that all worked out well for everybody once she kind of got sick and we needed some support and to be able to handle all of that. So, we moved back for family reasons, just to be closer to family for a while. And then, so that was why we came back to Texas.
So here's another crazy, like the internet is a small, small world. I'm coffee obsessed, and I actually followed her blog.
Really?
Having no idea the two of you were connected
Whoa.
till very, very recently.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's wild. Huh. How interesting. Yeah, Old Cup of Texas. She was very, very into that. So she was good at it too.
As I said off air to Jacob, I'm trying to be very sensitive about this because Christina got very, very sick and has passed away.
Yeah.
I can't even comprehend having that happen.
Yeah, and I don't honestly think that I can either. Like, I don't feel like I don't think anybody had, because Christina got real sick last, I guess it was April or May, but she ended up passing away last August. And so it hasn't even been a year yet. Like, at the time we're doing this interview right now, it hasn't even been a year yet. So I haven't fully understood it or integrated what it means or what the experience is. And a lot of people have offered me a lot of advice and support on it, and I've kind of just wanted to focus on it day by day and just kind of feel it out day by day and live the experience, because in putting these songs together for Trails and Traces, I've kind of realized, like, I don't write things unless I've internalized them and really thought about them quite a bit. Especially with this experience, I wanted to be able to communicate this to people well, just because I felt like if I kept it to myself, I would probably get really bitter. It wouldn't necessarily honor her and her memory very well if I did that. And so, I'm glad to talk about it, and I want to talk about it and kind of live it with people and kind of experience it with people so that other people can come along and take whatever they need from the story or join in on that story somehow or, add their little part. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. No problem. I mean, I feel like it would be silly to hide it,
Sure.
or to pretend I could hide it. So why not just talk about it and say, yes, this was terrible and tragic, but she was a beautiful person that inspired so many people to do so many good things and great things. And yeah, I don't know what that means necessarily. I don't know if that has a purpose, but I do know that she was a wonderful person, and that I want to continue to communicate that to people, and I want to continue to love her that way, and say, I don't know if I can't, that I just want to share it with people and have other people join in on it. Really is the whole goal, especially with the public side of like releasing music, because I've kind of struggled with that a little bit. Do I really want to do this? Like, this is kind of a private deal. And is it weird in any way to be sharing it, with anybody? And it's for all of my caution on that side, I've gotten nothing but positive feedback about it, like about people being glad that I'm open about it, and that will tell me their own stories that I would have never known otherwise. I was in Nashville a couple of weeks ago at a songwriters night and played a couple of the songs that are, pretty heavy songs, and I didn't really preface them at all because it was kind of a quick thing, so I just played them. And I had a couple of people come up to me afterwards that were telling me these stories about friends of theirs who had committed suicide or people that they had lost. And they were like, man, it just really brought up all that stuff. And I hadn't thought about that for a long time. And I was like, cool. And then I got to tell them my story, and we got to kind of, communicate with each other on a level that we would have just been strangers otherwise, So, yeah. So it's been a good thing so far. It's been a good way to deal with everything and to stay sane and to kind of give myself something to do that is hopefully constructive. So,
my personal worldview is that, music speaks to people in ways that words and language on their own don't.
Yeah, most definitely.
And I'm sure you know that the charity that our show specifically supports deals with musicians' mental health services and suicide prevention. And that's why I firmly feel that music does it for people, sometimes in weird ways. Unexpected, perhaps, is a more PC way of putting that.
Yeah, for sure. I like unexpected, because you think you're doing one thing with music, and very often it has this life of its own. If you're following it honestly, it takes on a life of its own. The songs themselves will change. What you get from them will change. It's a wild ride to follow music, especially.
I'm Sloan Spencer, the host of Country Fried Rock. If you're just joining us, my guest is Jacob Furr, a Texas songwriter with a brand new independently released record, Trails and Traces. Catch Country Fried Rock alumni, the Defibrillators, and the Whiskey Gentry at Jam Room Music Festival, October 11th in Columbia, South Carolina. Jam Room Music Festival is free.
Hey, this is Jacob Furr, and you're listening to Country Fried Rock.
To talk a little bit more specifically about the writing of these songs for Trails and Traces, at what point in your life process had that started?
You know, that's been one of the, like what we were just saying, like about songs and how they change and how music is always very unexpected, and it does these unexpected things. So some of the songs on the record I had written way previous to Christina ever, having an inkling of being sick at all, like 2 years prior.
Wow.
At most. And the main one right now is that Falling Stars song that I just put out the video for. That song, I wrote that when we lived in San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
It was kind of one of the experiment songs, and I was just kind of messing around, and I wrote that song, and I was like, man, this is a pretty sad song, but I'm a pretty melancholy guy, period. I'm a songwriter, so it's kind of necessary. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. I'm a melancholy person. That would, that kind of song would come out. Okay, cool. But once Christina passed away, I went on a road trip with a friend of mine out to the West Coast in September, and we were playing the songs, and, just some of the stuff that I'd written previous was just like, whoa, like these have totally taken on all sorts of meaning now, like that I never thought they were going to, and really specific things that I didn't think about while writing them. And so, so there's a couple of songs on the record that are like that, Falling Stars, and there's a song called Lines there's some references to Christina's eyes, because she had these eyes that would change color that were really cool. So songs like that I had written way previous, and, they were just songs that I'd written, and they didn't necessarily hold the weight that they hold now. Mm-hmm. And then there were a couple other ones that I wrote. The first song on the record is called Branches, and I wrote that one in the hospital room when we were in the hospital. That was the first song of that experience that I wrote. And then they were all through the experience, before, during, after, during a road trip, the road trip that I took. Yeah, so they came at all different points from many different levels, and so it's been really fascinating to kind of follow them down and see what they want to become and what they've wanted to say to me and to other people.
You've been on the road quite a bit in this last several set of months.
Yeah, I've been trying to stay pretty busy.
I get that.
Yeah, I've been trying to stay busy and just get out and play, and, like we said earlier, I do everything independently, so I do all my own booking and promotion and, whatnot, and recording and everything. So I've been trying to kind of get out there on the road and meet people and kind of sing the songs for folks and just kind of get it outside of my community here, because the community here in Fort Worth, the music scene here is incredible, and the songwriters especially that do the kind of thing that I do, the folk rock sort of deal, they're all very, very good, and I would like to be able to kind of take what we do here out a little bit, and if that means telling my story specifically everywhere, then, I want to encourage that as much as possible. And it also just feels good to drive.
Sure.
If you're grieving in any way, my dad calls it windshield therapy. So that's what we did in September. I just took off. I just got in the car and went. And I had $2,000 and was like, I'm going to go as far as I can, and maybe I'll get back.
Right.
So driving is a good way to think, because you've got nothing else to do but think when you're driving. And so part of it is that I want to get out and tour around and play, and part of it is also that it just feels really good to get out and be alone and kind of, let thoughts happen that won't usually happen at home. So
I'm a driver too.
Yeah, I love it.
That's you can tell if I've taken a big road trip by myself that I've got stuff on my mind.
Yeah.
But I like it good or bad.
Yeah, no. Yeah, in good situations, it's a wonderful thing to do. Yeah, bad situations, I don't know. I don't really know exactly what it is. I've been trying to think about it and explain, is this just a very American thing that we do where we go driving? Or is it something in the act of driving that opens up that space? I don't know. I think it's in the act right now, in the solitariness of it. You can't think about anything else. You're not allowed to think about anything else.
Right.
Except what you're doing, and it opens up a space for some strange reason. So people have been doing it for a very long time, and have written books about it.
Right.
They love doing it, especially writers. Yeah. I'm considering going to New Mexico early this weekend and just driving for the sake of driving, just getting out of town for a little while. So
I totally get that.
Yeah, I understand.
Well, so that's interesting that you mentioned the community, the folk rock community within Fort Worth. Tell a little bit about what that community is like.
Yeah, the Fort Worth scene, especially, the people that I know best are in the songwriter scene and do the folk rock thing. But, we have such a deep music scene here. Like, you can literally go any night of the week and see anything that you want to see. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, I felt a little bad for a while that I don't go out to like the hip-hop shows or the metal shows or, like some of the other things that I should probably go sing because they all happen and they're all very good. But the folk songwriter scene, it's a very good open scene. We're very welcoming of people that are willing to put in the work and really like work on their songs and play the shows and come out and kind of support the community as well. And so we have a really good, solid group of guys like Jody Jones, Jake Robinson. I could go on forever. Thomas Flynn. People are going to feel bad if I leave their names out. It's an enormous list. Scott Copeland is kind of like he was kind of like the main guy here in town. He just left town to move to Nashville recently, but Scott Copeland's kind of the guy that put it all on the map, I suppose. He got some songs cut by some bigger people a little while back. We have a big, big community of people. Larry Hooper's one of them, too. He lives out in Granbury, though, so he's not really in Fort Worth, so we don't get to see him very often, but he's definitely one of the good writers here in town. So yeah, we have a good crop of people that are doing it, and they all do it very well, and my favorite part about it is that they all do it very distinctly. Like I haven't been able to pin down like a Fort Worth sound yet. Yeah, I feel like in some other places you can kind of hear like the common thread between people. And right now in Fort Worth, everybody has a very, very unique voice. Like we just did a jam last night at a place where we do a songwriter showcase on Monday nights called The Grotto. And we did a jam with 3 writers. So it was Jody Jones, myself, and Ryan Tharp. And it was great because every song was completely different from the one played before it. Like there was no song that was similar in any way.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it was great. It was really awesome to hear people writing like that and being creative like that here in my hometown.
How did the recording of the record come about?
That's a good story. So, went on the road trip last September after Christina had passed away, and I took a friend of mine, Ben Moore, who's a guitar player who originally is from Dalhart, Texas, which is way up in the Panhandle. But he and I met in school and just kind of have stayed together and have played church gigs and all kinds of things together. And so he went with me out to California in September. And so while we were out there, we were playing some songs together and just kind of, like, man, this is really good. And we thought, well, yeah, we'll work on it for a little while. And so when I got back, though, I had so many people, just because the way that Christina and I had tried to, like, integrate ourselves into Fort Worth, we wanted to know everybody, and we wanted to be part of what was going on. We wanted to support it. And so when she passed away, it's just a huge hole, and the whole community felt it. And so everybody was coming up to me like, hey, man, if there's anything we can do for you, let us know how we can help you, And I was like, well, I don't necessarily want to, just, like, eat casserole for the rest of my life. Like, maybe there's something, you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe there's something a little more constructive we can all do together that's not just for me, And so I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, we've got these songs, and I'd like to record them. I feel like I've been given this gift to have these songs, so I'd like to record them. So I started looking up some different studios, and the dream studio was Prairie Sun Studios in California. It's where Tom Waits has done a couple of Grammy-winning records. Nico Case is recorded there, Delta Spirits recorded there, the Mountain Goats are recorded there. It's just absurd. Like, it's just a really cool studio. And it's north of San Francisco, which was really special to me. I was like, man, if I could do this in California near San Francisco, right on the coast, that would just bring this whole experience of falling in love with Christina, marrying Christina, and then losing Christina, it would kind of bring it all full circle, And so, but I knew it was out of my price range. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work or not. So we had some other options going and thought, okay, well, if everybody wants to help me, and kind of support this and just kind of all grieve together, because that's what people are doing when they say they want to help you.
Exactly.
They're like, I want to grieve with you. I want to hurt with you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, let's hurt together in a constructive way that'll bring some kind of value to whatever it is we have here. And so started the Indiegogo campaign, and the goal was to make $10,000, and I think we made $10,000 in like 2 weeks, which was, that's just absurd. Like, that doesn't usually happen. And I know why it happened. It was very much everybody was chipping in to kind of, grieve together. They
Sure.
were all supporting that. It wasn't necessarily a really well-run crowdfunding campaign or anything. I didn't, most people plan them out 6 months ahead of time and run these like big campaigns and go for it. And that one I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to put this up here and you will see what happens, and hope for it. And so, so everybody that knew, from people out in California that knew me and Christina, all sorts of people got on board with it and just were incredibly generous and fully funded the thing in 2 weeks. And so at that point, I called Ben and I was like, hey, man, I think we can do this Prairie Sun thing. And he was like, let's do it. And so I called them and told them, here's how much I can afford. And they're like, yeah, come on. We can totally do that for that. And so went out there and we cut the record. What did we do? We did 11 tracks in 3 days.
Whoa.
And then we mixed for the next 3 days. So it was a marathon record-making situation. But we did it. Matt Wright is the engineer that was out there, and he was incredible, just worked really hard the whole time. I felt bad. I was like, oh, man, I'm asking this guy to do way too much right now. Like, this is a lot. But he knocked it out. It was crazy. So we got out there, and, we got to record the record at Prairie Sun, which is a beautiful studio. It's an old chicken hatchery out in Cotati, California. And this is probably my favorite part of the whole thing. So when Christina and I lived in San Francisco, we lived 2 houses down from a place called the Palace of Fine Arts. So it's down in the Marina District, right at the edge of the bay. It's supposed to look like a Greek temple, and they built it for the World Exposition back in the 30s or something like that. So it's still standing, and it's got this beautiful pond that they have some swans in and everything. And so it's a really special place to me, because that was the spot where Christina and I kind of fell in love with each other. We would go on walks around that thing. We would just hang out there late at night and talk, because it was just beautiful. Just absolutely gorgeous place. And so that specific spot meant a lot to me, the Palace of Fine Arts. So when we got to Prairie Sun, there's a room in the studio called the Waits Room. It's an old grain storage room, and they used to have just a bunch of junk in there, apparently. But when Tom Waits recorded there, he was like, I want to record in that room. And they were all kind of like, really? And he's like, yeah, it's going to sound really cool. They cleared out the room, and sure enough, this room, it's a tiny little room with redwood paneling. It sounds amazing. Like, the reverb in the room is completely unique. There's one digital company that can kind of replicate it, but nobody's ever been able to copy that specific room sound. So it's a really unique room, and I was really excited to go play in the room. So when we got there and we were setting everything up, I snuck in there and opened the door, took my guitar in the room, and then as soon as I opened the door, there's a pump organ in the room, and on top of the pump organ was this, I don't know how big it was, like 3x5 blown up, huge picture of the Palace of Fine Arts.
Oh, cool.
Sitting on top of the organ in the room. And I was like, whoa, that is really, like, I'm already out here, and now that place is here, and I'm going to be recording in this room looking at this huge picture of, like, one of the most important places on earth to me. This is wild. And so I asked them, I was like, how long's that picture been in here? Like, what the heck? What happened? They said, oh, that's just been there for years, just an old picture of the palace. I was like, well, all right.
This was meant to be.
Yeah, it was really cool. So pretty beautiful experience out there. Hey, my name's Jacob Furr, and my new record is called Trails and Traces.
Country Fried Rock is helping prevent musician suicide. Our official charity has been Nucci's Space, a nonprofit organization removing barriers to mental health care for the music community of Athens, Georgia. This model program addresses everything from the need for affordable rehearsal space to loaner gear, as well as direct mental health services and primary care for musicians. We've got a ton of ways you can help them out at countryfriedrock.bandcamp.com. Find us on iTunes, Spreaker, Podfeed, Player FM, Blueberry, Stitcher, Gigadial, Digital Podcast, and some great apps including Agogo and Swell in both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Wherever you listen, you'll find Country Fried Rock. Never miss an episode. Welcome back to Country Fried Rock. I'm Sloan Spencer. Today I'm talking with Jacob Furr, a songwriter from Texas, about his latest record, Trails and Traces.
Yeah, it was pretty special. Yeah, it was cool.
So who were you able to take out there with you, or were they guys who were already in the California area?
So I took Ben, who's my buddy from Lubbock, and he lives in Washington, D.C. right now, and he plays lead guitar, and he's a multi-instrumentalist. And then I took my friend from Fort Worth named Aaron Stanfield, who is the drummer in the band that I play with here, and took him and Aaron, and that was it. We three went out there, and we recorded everything live as a three-piece first. So we did guitar, vocals, lead guitar, and drums, all live, no click tracks, just straight through each song until we got the take we wanted. And once we'd done that, we kind of tore everything down and set up as another three-piece of like bass, organ, piano, extra guitar parts, and kind of played sideman to the tracks that we had already laid down.
Nice.
So, yeah, it was cool because they're both multi-instrumentalists. I'm a multi-instrumentalist, so we could just kind of like pick what part we wanted to do, you know?
Well, I wondered because I was like, there's more to it than just that. So, okay.
Yeah, there's more than just three. We put a lot of layers on there and tried to fill it up and be tasty with all the parts that we had. So
the mixing really was quite something. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah, the mixing. So, I mean, the gear at Prairie Sun is world class. Like, you're not going to find better equipment anywhere. Microphones, like the board we recorded into was a Neve.
Nice.
The board we mixed on was an SSL, which is like the board, right? If you want to do like analog recording, that's the thing. Yeah, so the mixing, we did it in 3 days, and like I said, Matt Wright just worked his butt off making that thing happen. And we got in there the first day for mixing, and he just started mixing analog. He started doing it on the board because you can do it, they have the whole setup, so you can do it in Pro Tools if you want to, and it's faster, but it's not quite the same experience and the same sound. And so he started doing it analog, and he mixed this one song down, and he turned around to me and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, did you want me to do this digitally or analog?" And I was like, keep doing what you're doing.
Do your thing, do your thing.
Yeah, it sounds real good. He was like, okay, because it'll go faster if I do the other way. And I was like, no, this sounds really good. If you're willing to put in the time and do this, I'm totally willing to let you do this. So he worked so hard mixing that record down, just old school analog style on that SSL board. And that was quite the amazing experience to get to listen to those songs come to life and fill out as you start mixing them and putting the parts in and bringing different things up and layering things a little bit differently, and just wild, really cool.
The sound is really great, but I can absolutely hear how this would work for you doing it yourself as well.
Yeah, I try to walk a middle line between the analog and the digital worlds, recording-wise, because the digital stuff allows you to do it all by yourself.
Oh,
and I've done that, and it allows you to do all this editing and, like, cutting in and fixing little parts and doing all that kind of stuff, which some people get really heavy into, and then other people get really heavy into the tape. It is what it is, leave it alone. That's all there is to it, and it's going to be a little lo-fi. And I'm kind of like, you know what, if we can do it right down the middle and take the best of both worlds, I feel like we can come up with something pretty cool. And so that's what we did. Like, I love the multi-tracking abilities of digital, that we can set up as a three-piece and record all this, and then set up as a separate three-piece and record as sidemen to ourselves. Like, that's just so cool. There's a lot of breath that happens in there when you do that. And we didn't cut in any parts. We recorded every track from start to finish as one whole take, so which I felt was a push towards the analog side of things, even though we could have done it and been, punch in here, whatever. Every part we did was from beginning to end, one solid take, all the way through, which was really cool. And I think the record has a lot of life to it because of that. I mean, you can definitely hear tempo changes, and you can hear there are mistakes. Like, you can hear them if you're listening to it, but we were talking about it in the studio. We were like, should we cut that out? And I was like, no. Like, that's what makes this feel human. That's the whole point of this thing, is that this is about being human, and this is about this experience that we're all, at some point in our lives, going to have. Like, nobody gets away from this. And this is the most human thing we could be singing and playing about right now. And so I want this to feel human. I want it to feel alive. So, yeah, so there's a couple of songs where you can definitely feel that we got really excited. We're like, oh, this is going so good, and the tempo sped up, or there's some string buzzes and, there's just little things, and I like them. I think they contributed really well to the song, so.
That's cool. Well, you've said several things that really, I think, are very, I don't really even know how to put a word on it, but it's very generous to the thoughts and feelings of others who were part of your lives.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, we don't live in vacuums, right? I'm not surviving on my own. And so I think it's important to acknowledge the people around us. That's a good way to say it. To just say, yeah, no, I'm not doing this alone. And whether or not you've supported me and helped me get to where I'm at now, or you're a complete stranger, in no way are any of us doing any of this by ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, I hope that people that have helped me do this feel as thanked as I would like them to feel, because, yeah, it's unbelievable what they all came together and helped me do. And if anything, it was a great therapy session to go to Northern California and record a record. If it's only that, then I owe all these people my life, but it came out, and I feel like it's a really cool record, and really good sounds and good songs. And so I feel like we've all done something even more than just helping Jacob survive. Like, we've all put something together that can go out and can be told to other people and connect other people, and I'm hoping that works. I mean, in the writing of it and in putting those songs together, we were trying to be really careful to not be... There was a blog that I talked to over in England a couple of weeks ago. It's heavy without being maudlin.
Yeah.
And I really liked that word.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I was like, it really is, and I was hoping that it would be that. I didn't want it to be this hopeless record from something that felt like a hopeless experience. Because the thing that got us through that was a sort of hope, was a form of hope that maybe this isn't all there is to this story. Christina passing away, hopefully praying that it's not all there is to this. And so the record, I definitely wanted it to have that feeling of, yeah, we could go real dark right now if we wanted to. And songs I've written since, that I probably never release. I've got some really dark stuff, but I don't necessarily know that that's what people need to hear all the time, from me at least. And so I was hoping that record would kind of do that, would hit you on a couple of levels, that you would get it on a sorrowful level, but you'd also get it on like a, oh, man, this is beautiful level. This is a good thing level.
I'm Sloan Spencer, the host of Country Fried Rock. If you're just joining us, my guest is Jacob Furr, a Texas songwriter with a brand new independently released record, Trails and Traces. You can find Country Fried Rock on great radio stations like 91.1 The Globe in Goshen, Indiana, Wildman Steve Radio Network from Auburn, Alabama, around the world. Online from Texas at Root Hog Radio, part of Radio Free Americana, from Mobile, Alabama on the Mod Mobilian Radio Network. Listen in Georgetown, California at KFOK 96.1, from Kodiak, Alaska on KMXT, KSRQ, Grand Forks, Minnesota, KKRN, Round Mountain, California, KDRP, solar-powered radio from Dripping Springs, Texas, WALW, Moulton, Alabama, and other great stations like CJXF, Calgary, Canada, 89.1 The Lakeshore, and yourhometownradio.com.
If you really want to know about my music and listen to it, you can go to my Bandcamp website, which is jacobfurr, FURR.bandcamp.com. There's a whole bunch of music there for download, and when you download it, I always ask for email addresses so I can stay in touch with you and tell you about shows that might be coming through, or, new releases and all that kind of stuff. That's been very important in my personal life with friends, to just allow them to say what they need to say. If they have something they want to get out about Christina or something like that, to not be like, well, that's mine, and to kind of back off from it and be like, you don't get to talk about this, but to be like, yeah, go ahead, share it with me. And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you let me talk to you. If we can't do this two ways, then what's the point,
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be selfish with this thing, because we're all going to do it, so we might as well all be open about it.
There may be a time down the road, 10 years from now, when you need to make that dark record.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about it, and it's been something I've been considering and thinking, like, how do I let these things out? How do I express these things? I'm pretty good at the hopeful thing. I've been doing that for a while, so I know I can do that. But the darkness, it's a little bit harder to communicate. I was talking to another writer here in town. His name's Joe Savage, the other day, and he was talking about, he was working on a song about me, and he told me this line about, she left or something like that. I was like, man, that's a line about divorce. It's not about death. And he was like, well, how do you write it about death? I was like, I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet.
Right.
Like, how do you express that darkness without it just being like totally morbid, just crushing? Maybe it needs to be. Maybe it does need to be. But we're all kind of working on that, I think, trying to figure out like how to do it well. I mean, the only thing left to do is just kind of follow these songs down. Hopefully people will come along on that ride with me, and will be part of the story before they go, because I am writing new stuff, and I'm trying to figure out how to say these things that are maybe a little bit darker than what Trails and Traces are about. Maybe aren't even about that. Maybe I have a whole nother record about political stuff, because I've written, I've got some songs about that too, because you go through this experience and all sorts of things come up, and you just get very angry and very sad and all sorts of emotions, and so my writing's just been all over the place recently. Hopefully the future will be something interesting.
As I said at the very beginning of us chatting, I can't even comprehend what you've been through, but your willingness to go forward day by day with people has really helped people that you probably don't even know.
I hope so. It's just what I thought I should do. I thought, if I'm gonna do this, I'm not gonna shut down for many reasons. The first of which is it would just not be honoring to Christina's memory. She was not that kind of person. She's not the kind of person that gave up. She's not the kind of person that would see something that she wanted to do and think that it was, impossible. And she also, it's hard to say once someone's passed away without it sounding kind of corny, but talk to anybody, to any of that group of girls that knew Christina, and they'll all tell you that her life was 100% all the time. Like everything and it was hard to keep up with her. Especially being married to her, it was like, oh man, we need to take a break, because I'm a slow person. I'm a homebody and I'm a slow person, and she's not. She was a go-getter, a get out there, a mover and a shaker. So part of me was like, no, if I learned anything from you over the 3 years that we were married, it was to keep moving and to always be on the move and to be experiencing new things and living new things and meeting people and knowing people and, just kind of eating it all up, just take it all in. So, I've tried to honor her that way and to just keep going and to say, no, we're going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep telling this story because it's the only story I have to tell right now. And hopefully others will get it and will have a place in that story as well.
What's been remarkable to me about what you have chosen to share publicly, both, in social media and today, is that it's always seemed to me that you're moving towards something, not running away. I've never gotten that feeling.
Yeah, and that's really interesting you would say that, because that was something that when Christina and I got married and we were trying to decide, we were like, should we live in San Francisco or should we live in Texas? We were having that conversation about where to live, and obviously, come on, go live in San Francisco. Duh. It's pretty great. But we were having that conversation, and we thought, well, what about in the future? And so we that's really fascinating you would say it. We set that rule in place in our relationship. We're like, we're not going to run away from things. If we're ever moving, we're not running away from things. We're not going to leave problems unsolved and say, oh, we couldn't fix that or we couldn't deal with that, and so we left. So we lived in San Francisco because we wanted to, and we came to Texas because we wanted to. Mm-hmm. And thanks for saying that. I hope that I continue to do that. It's a very important part of our relationship, was not running away from things.
Jacob Furr, I really, really appreciate your time. And
thanks, Sloan. Yeah, it's been a good conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking with me.
Congrats. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Take care. Looking forward to hearing from you soon.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Country Fried Rock, music uncovered. This week's instrumental is Gilbert Takes the Wheel from Guadalcanal Diary and their album, Walking in the Shadow of the Big Man. You can subscribe to our weekly podcast on iTunes. Just search Country Fried Rock. Our Country Fried Rock stinger is from Steve Soto and the Twisted Hearts. Country Fried Rock is a partnership with the nonprofit Florence Regional Arts Alliance. Your donations to this program are tax-deductible to the extent you are eligible under U.S. law. Country Fried Rock radio programs are distributed to public radio through the Public Radio Exchange, prx.org. Copyright 2014 by Lilypad Productions. All rights reserved.
Ever he been helping us some country fried